Andrew Bone, recruiting reporter for Rivals.com and BamaInsider.com, is joining us now to give us the scoop on football recruiting for the Crimson Tide. It never sleeps. It never stops. And Alabama had a really good class that's coming in for this campaign, but was not ranked in the top 5. I said this earlier, Bone. I think that's the first time since Nick Saban's first recruiting class of 2007 that Alabama didn't finish in the top 5. Am I correct there?
You are correct. I think they finished right at number 10 in 2007, and then ever since then it was number one. I think then it was number 2, and then it was number 1, and then then you had number 7, and kind of surprised a lot of people. It was a smaller class, but they were wanting to get a few guys in the end. They just missed out, but I think we're going to see a little bit of a difference this year with completely new, almost a completely new staff in Tuscaloosa. A lot of young guys, young assistant coaches who, if you follow on social media, a lot of these guys like Josh Gaddis and Jeff Banks, these guys are pretty active on Twitter in terms of tweeting information out about Alabama, and they know who it's going to. I mean, obviously some fans are going to follow them, but they know these recruits are following them, and that's who they're really targeting with these posts on a daily basis.
Yeah, Coach Saban even talked yesterday after practice about how he really is enjoying this staff. He loves their energy, and they are going to get after it on the recruiting trail. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk about where Alabama stands right now. 4 commitments, all really, really highly rated players. Pierce Quick, of course, the offensive tackle out of Hewitt-Trussville, just looks like a can't-miss guy as far as offensive linemen go. You never know that for sure, but he looks like he's got all the tools. Brandon Turnage, an athlete from Oxford, Mississippi. Brendan Gant, a safety, I guess, but, maybe projects it as an athletic-type player, too, and out of Lakeland, Florida. And then you have to help me with the kid from over in LaGrange, King Wakuda. How do you say his last name?
King Wakuda.
Wakuda, the M silent. Yeah, King Wakuda, who is one of these outstanding athletic outside linebackers. Just so far, those 4 guys, what do you think of the commitments Alabama has so far for 2019?
Well, it's a strong start. And, Pierce Quick was a very early commitment for Alabama. He was the first commitment. And one of those kids who just grew up dreaming of playing for the Crimson Tide. It was a good thing because he's one of the best offensive linemen in the country out of Hewitt-Trussville. And he still had a lot of schools that were still coming after him, still wanted him to visit. He was getting offers almost every other day. And he came out recently and said, I'm done with everything. I am 100% locked in with Alabama. Please, schools, thank you for contacting me and offering me, but Alabama's where I'm going. You can quit. I'm going to be a big recruiter for Alabama. So I think that's something that Alabama really liked. And, just having a leader, having a big recruiter on board like Pierce Quick was huge. And then they ended up getting a pair of defensive backs and Brendan Gant out of Lakeland, Florida, and Brandon Turnage out of Oxford, Mississippi. And as you can imagine, going out of state and getting some elite defensive backs, especially, pretty much right in the backyard of some of these top schools, especially in Oxford, Mississippi, where you're having to compete against Ole Miss every single day for Brandon Turnage. In Mississippi State is still recruiting him. There's some other schools that are coming after him really hard. So I don't know if you could stay on top of him. Recruit him for a very long time, and just like as if he was not committed. And same with Brendan Gant. Brendan Gant just took an unofficial visit down to Miami this past weekend, and Florida State is still coming very hard after him. I think he's still going to take some visits, so that's something to kind of watch. And then King Wakuda, grew up an Alabama fan, has been an Alabama guy for a very long time. So, even though some other schools are going to continue to recruit him, like Georgia and Florida and Tennessee and places like that, I think he's pretty much locked in with Alabama. But that's 4 really good commitments for Alabama, and I'd certainly imagine many more is going to come before the start of the season.
I want to focus in-state for a moment because last year we know it wasn't a great year in-state for Alabama in terms of prospects. The Crimson Tide signed just 2 in-state players. Of course, Jalen Armour-Davis from down at St. Paul's, the cornerback, and Michael Parker, the tight end from Westminster up in Huntsville. And he might have been a blue shirt had Alabama not missed out on some guys late. But this year, it looks very, very good. And we mentioned, of course, Pierce Quick, but they're kind of that triangle, big 3 offensive linemen in the state. In addition to Pierce Quick, you've got Clay Webb, who as a center just looks like he's off the charts from over at Oxford High School, and Amari Knight, the huge offensive tackle from Thompson High School in Alabaster. What are the chances, they've already gotten Quick, of Alabama getting commitments from those other 2 guys, and how do you rank those guys in terms of offensive linemen around the country?
Well, I'll tell you, it really is a good year in the state of Alabama, and I think the Crimson Tide coaching staff is really focused in on some of these top guys in the state, especially especially on the offensive line with Clay Webb, who is the #1 center prospect in the country, currently rated as a 5-star recruit on Rivals.com. Just unbelievable offensive lineman. I mean, I've watched him for the last few years and have been very impressed with him. Every time I've seen him, we had him at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge last summer up in Indianapolis, and he was just mauling people up there. So, yeah, I definitely think that Alabama is in very good shape with him. Now he is going to take his time. He likes Alabama a lot, but he also likes Auburn. Also likes Georgia, Clemson, New Mexico. Those would probably be his top 4 schools right now. It probably, like I said, probably won't announce anytime soon. Amari Knight, big offensive lineman, as you mentioned, 6'6", about 300 pounds. Did grow up an Alabama fan, has an Alabama offer. So you got to kind of think that being an in-state kid at Thompson High School in Alabaster, Alabama's got a really good chance to get him as well. But there's some really good offensive line targets throughout the entire country that I think Alabama's got a good chance with. So if they plan on signing about 4 or 5 guys, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what they end up doing there. But those aren't the only guys in the state. I mean,
right.
You got the quarterbacks and Tua's younger brother over at Thompson High School, who a lot of people think that probably one of the best quarterbacks in the state, or excuse me, in the Southeast. If not the country. Still a little bit on the short side, only about 5'11", 6 feet tall. But man, he's an impressive quarterback. He's a lot like Tua, so he's definitely going to be one of those guys to kind of follow for the next few months. I would be surprised if he's not in Alabama's class. And then you have Paul Tyson over at Hewitt-Trussville, who had an unbelievable junior campaign. We saw him down at the Rivals camp in Mobile a few weeks ago, I guess about a month ago now, and he won the MVP honors at the quarterback position. I've been so impressed with how much he has changed over the last year. I saw him at a camp a year ago, and he's just kind of a tall kid, lanky kid that had a pretty good arm, and now you can kind of see how much he's developed in the last year and kind of changed his body and filled out, and really has worked on his skills as a quarterback. And he's got a very strong arm, very accurate, and I think he's definitely one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I'd be shocked if he's not in Alabama's class. So those are 2 quarterbacks that I think will end up in Alabama's class, the only 2 quarterbacks that I think will end up in Alabama's class. And, going kind of around the state, going down to Mobile, Christian Williams, 4-star defensive back, right outside the top 100. I think he ends up moving into the top 100 when all is said and done. Probably one of the best defensive backs in the entire country, 6'1", 185 pounds, out of Daphne High School. I think he ends up signing with Alabama. Another defensive lineman, DJ Dell out of Clay Chalk, which is a big physical guy, 6'1.5", 6'2", he's a big kid. He's about 325 pounds. I definitely see him as one of the elite players in the state of Alabama this year. Definitely somebody that I think could end up in Alabama's class.
Talking with Andrew Bone, Alabama football recruiting for 2019. It's a good year in Alabama. It's a great year in Mississippi, and we know Alabama has done a terrific job of cherry-picking Mississippi through the years. We already mentioned Brandon Turnage committed, but that state is loaded with top-tier prospects. What are the chances that Alabama is able to get back into Magnolia State in addition to Turnage and sign a few more guys there in 2019? And we know the competition's always hot over there in such a small state, with not just Ole Miss and Mississippi State, but all the SEC schools and national schools too. But what's it look like for Alabama in the state of Mississippi for 2019?
Well, yeah, it's a very good year in Mississippi. It's probably about 2 or 3 Alabama Auburn guys in the state of Mississippi, and that number's probably double this year. There's a lot of guys that Alabama's heavily recruiting over there, including N'Kobe Dean, the Rivals 100 linebacker out of Farm Lake High School. Not a big guy, not your 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" type guy. He's probably closer to about 6 foot, but he's 215 pounds, 220. Reminds me a lot of Sean Dion Hamilton coming out of high school, and maybe even Reuben Foster. I mean, just a big physical linebacker, very fast, moves well sideline to sideline. He's visited Alabama a few times, and has Alabama very high on his list. But there's some other schools that are also very high on his list, like LSU, like Georgia and Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Those are definitely some schools that he likes a lot. There's a few defensive linemen who are over there in Byron Young, a 4-star out of Laurel, Mississippi, and Nathan Pickering, a 4-star defensive lineman out of a seminary school in Mississippi. You do have a defensive lineman by the name of Jarian Handy, who just decommitted from LSU out of Perry Central High School in New Augusta, Mississippi, who has Alabama very high on his list. So, those are some of the names Alabama fans kind of pay attention to over the next few months. But I definitely think that Alabama's got a chance to really hit on some big targets in the state of Mississippi this year, just because there's a lot of talent, but most of that talent has already been to Tuscaloosa 3 or 4 times, and they're going to continue to visit over the next few months.
Visiting with Andrew Bone. You can follow him on Twitter at Andrew J. Bone, of course, BamaInsider.com, part of the Rivals.com network, and to keep up with his recruiting reports there. All right, the reason I'm focused here on Alabama and Mississippi and the third state, Georgia, is because that's the hub states, along with Florida, of course, for Alabama recruiting. And we know that Nick Saban will go wherever players are at, and he'll go all over the country. But this past year, we mentioned just 2 signees from Alabama, none from Mississippi, and none from Georgia. And we know Kirby Smart's done an incredible job there after taking over as head coach at Georgia. But what are the chances for 2019, Bone, that Alabama can get back into Georgia? And who are some guys, we've already mentioned the one commitment, who are some other guys that they're looking at over there this year and trying to get back in that talent-rich state?
Well, yeah, they definitely like to recruit the state of Georgia, and there's definitely some talent over there, and I think this year they're going to be able to get some good guys. One particular player, Jalen McCullough, 4-star defensive back over at Hillgrove High School in Powder Springs, has visited Alabama several times. I would say that Alabama's his leader, and I think he'll probably commit before his senior season. I think he's very high on Alabama. He's definitely very high on Alabama's wish list, but I think as of right now, Alabama is the team to beat for him. And, there's some offensive linemen in the state of Georgia that they like, but I think as of right now, I can't see an offensive lineman joining Alabama's class. It tends to lean towards more defensive players, and I mentioned Jalen McCullough. Phil Chambers is a name to really kind of follow. Just received an offer from Alabama a few weeks ago at Junior Day. One of those linebackers that very athletic. I think he's got a good chance to end up in Alabama's class. But they're going to continue to recruit that state really well, and they've got some good recruiters over there. So I think just kind of focus in on some of the key guys over there. I mentioned Phil Chambers. They already have a big commitment in King Wakuda. Nolan Smith, who's at IMG Academy, but originally from the state of Georgia, committed to Georgia. That's a big one for them. That's a big name that Alabama fans are paying close attention to. I think Alabama still has a good chance to to potentially flip him. And another guy is Christopher Hinton, 5-star defensive end out of Norcross, Georgia, a Greater Atlanta Christian, committed to Michigan right now. Definitely has a lot of interest in Alabama.
All right, Bone, before we wrap it up, I just got a text from somebody, said, ask Bone, with Tua hurting his thumb and with Gardner Minshew going to Florida State, is there a chance that Alabama will look to add a graduate quarterback for this upcoming season? Any chance of that?
Well, I have had a lot of questions about that, and I don't know exactly if they're going to be able to go out and find somebody this kind of late in the process.
Right.
It's kind of difficult, especially when they knew that Gardner Minshew was planning on coming in. But we'll see. I think it remains kind of up in the air right now. I would probably lean towards no. It's not going to happen, but you never know. They may they may look around and see who's still out there. I know that they're still looking at some potential other graduate transfers, including a defensive lineman, maybe even a linebacker. But I think they'll probably look and see if there's anybody still out there, and then make a decision.
All right, and finally, speaking of that, since I got on that topic, I got a text from somebody. Thanks for answering that. This is what I'm going to ask. Alabama, I think, Bone, would still like to add a veteran defensive lineman for this upcoming season if they can. I understand they're still trying to evaluate some guys who are transfer eligible. What are the possibilities that they'll bring in a defensive lineman in time for fall camp for 2018?
Yeah, I think they'd like to. The biggest thing is just trying to get some guys on campus and trying to evaluate, because they could easily see some guys on film that they like, but they don't really know until they bring them in on campus and kind of see if these guys have the right mindset and are the right fit for the program. There's a kid by the name of Tavita Musuka, who is a JUCO defensive lineman that still looking for a place. And on film, Alabama likes him, but they still want to bring him in on campus and spend some time with him and just see. And if they like what they see, if he kind of fits the mold, then I think they'll go ahead and take him. So that's definitely a name to keep an eye on. Really the only name right now that I'm hearing. So we'll see if anybody else pops up over the next month or so.